Hey, what's going on? I'm Patrick Giguère with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology, and welcome to June. So this is the June video. This is the June predictions, analysis, all that good stuff. So I'm going to lay out the summary like usual and then go into the specific days. So before we get rocking and rolling, just a quick note. If you like my videos, if you like my content, if you enjoy this channel, please consider subscribing to it, liking the videos, sharing the videos, and dropping me a comment. It doesn't have to be a long, well-thought comment. You can drop me a thumbs up, a thanks, a cool video, whatever. When people do this, the channel does better. I can make more videos, better videos, more in-depth, more interesting, the whole bit. I've got a lot of topics I want to get into, not just current events, but mythology, runes, all kinds of good stuff. So anyway, thanks either way, and that's enough of that. So like I said, we're in June. 2021 it's seriously flying by. We're going to be really halfway there in 3 weeks on the solstice. 3 weeks, June 21st is going to be Midsummer's Day, and then it's kind of, as far as the sun goes, it's downhill from there. Days get shorter, and we do the second half of 2021. And it's going to be many years before any year disappoints. They're going to be exciting. They're going to be unexpected, surprising. It's going to be interesting. The kind of calm, boring normality we grew up in is really... it's done. We're not going to have that again till the 2050s, maybe halfway through that. Every party has its hangover. So here we are. And the thing about hangovers is that they make you wiser, or they should. Or as you grow up a little more and learn how to take care of yourself, they make you wiser, and you have less and less of them. So kind of the times that I see us in, the transformation never tickles. Transformation is seldom fun. It's fulfilling, but transforming is really never fun. And if you knew how challenging it was going to be before the outset, you'd never do it. So those are the times we're living in. And with that said, I don't see anything worth going crazy over and really keeping yourself up at night over. You do want to be smart. You want to be thinking. You want to do some planning. You want to use your head, but I don't see nothing too huge coming up here that's going to be a big disaster. But definitely some setbacks and some inconveniences, and definitely instances where we have to adapt. So anyway, let's get into the bullet points of the summary, and then we'll dive into the days, into the juicy nitty-gritties. So yeah, this is a June 2021 is a kickoff for a challenging summer. It's going to bring a lot of transformation to our individual lives, to our families, communities, countries, you name it, to the whole world. And with that, it's going to come a lot of change. We're going to live differently. We're going to start doing things differently. Systems, institutions are going to start slowly changing. None of that happens right off the bat. There's especially in the alternative media community, there's a lot of bird feeders getting visited. Just hung one. Anyway, in the alternative media, there's a lot of promises for just everything being cleaned up right away and sewn up, and all you have to do is just watch it on TV from the comfort of your own home. Not the case. I keep waiting for somebody to come up and say that, Donald Trump's going to be inaugurated on July 4th because the White Hats said so and the Q people said so. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm waiting for it. Yeah, none of it's going to be that simple where it's just delivered on a silver platter, and you get to kick back and watch the entertainment of it all. It's going to happen slowly and gradually and unexpectedly. And some sudden things will happen, but none of it's going to be done in a day or a week or a month or a season. So yeah, a lot of big changes coming. Big changes in, government and money are going to be some of the biggest things, especially in America, because the sign of Capricorn, sign of government, is in the second house of wealth for the United States of America. But, for the world in general, those two institutions are going to see a lot of change. So some specifics of what's, bringing all this transformation and change. We've got this solar eclipse in Taurus. We had the lunar eclipse in Taurus in, that was in May. What was the specific day there? Wasn't May 29? May 26th. May 26th was that lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So June 10th will be the day of the solar eclipse. So following 2 weeks later. They always follow each other by 2 weeks. So we're in the eclipse season now. But yeah, this, and really that lunar eclipse in Taurus, in Scorpio on May 26th is really going to set the tone for this month. And even to the Mercury retrograde, May 29th, 0 degrees Gemini, that's going to do a lot to set the tone for June, but we'll get into that a little later. But this solar eclipse is a big deal. It's one of the biggest deals in June. Solar eclipse in Taurus, later degrees, it's at about 25 degrees. For the world, this, Taurus, the way I look at things for the world is you just put Aries, the first sign, in the first house. So when you look at it that way, for the world, it's revelations about money and wealth, where it comes from, how it's managed, who manages it, what they do with it, how they manage it, all those nitty-gritty details. And again, I connect revelations and disclosures with eclipses because eclipses are the darkening of a light source. And if you follow me, you've heard me give this explanation before, but light illuminates things, it shows you things, but it also blinds you. And you can use the analogy of, staring at the sun and then trying to, if you stare at the sun, you try to look at things in your environment, you can't, because you're kind of blinded. And then if you use the analogy of being on a stage and having a spotlight pointed directly at you, you can't, there's sort of a radius around that spotlight where you can't see anything because it's just flooded out by light. And you especially can't see the person or the people behind the spotlight shining it at you. And this is a big thing in the world. All kinds of people shine spotlights at us. Figures of authority love to shine spotlights. Education, media, government. Especially when you're younger, our parents do this. They shine the spotlight. They all shine the spotlight of the information, of the light that they want us to see and want us to know, to the exclusion of everything else. They kind of want us to see things within certain parameters because they're trying to keep a group of people in a whole program, going in the same direction. And this it doesn't mean that that's sinister, but it just means that to keep a group of people on the same page, you have to have a story to tell. So when eclipses happen, that light gets shut off, your eyes acclimate to the dark, and you can see things that are outside of the official story, or not even the official story, but just our perception and our personal agenda for our perception, what we wanted to see. Because we don't always see things clearly because of our agendas. We want to see things, we want to see people a certain way. So we kind of see the world through rose-colored glasses. So the eclipses are a time where we take off the rose-colored glasses and we can see things more clearly. we don't always take that opportunity. Sometimes we push even harder to see things the way we want to see them. But it's an opportunity to at least see things more clearly. So yeah, for the world, revelations about wealth and money, material wealth, the material environment. For the United States of America, it's revelations about the struggles that are going on, because Taurus is the sixth house for America. So it deals with struggles, the struggles we're facing as a country. It deals with the enemies we're facing, and the use of money by those enemies, or the way that those enemies want to steal wealth and resources or take control of them. Also deals with health and healing, because the sixth house, the original home of Virgo, deals with health, healing, disease, medicine. So we're going to get some big information, some big news coming across about health, healing, disease. And the biggest topic here, it's the I don't want to use the trigger words to get my videos pulled off YouTube, but it's the experimental medicine, the experimental injectable remedy for the big virus we've been dealing with. In the, right on a government website, the VAERS system, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS, the reporting is like off the charts, as of April, when it was, I think, last reported. Usually every year you get something like 300 to 500 adverse reactions reported. Back towards the end of April, it was already over 3,000. So, they rushed a remedy, injectable remedy, an experimental emergency one for this virus through that didn't have sufficient testing, and this is going to become apparent in due time, and this eclipse is going to mark a point where the mainstream is going to start recognizing this. And already, you can see, if you go on C-SPAN, if you go on, say, like the YouTube channel for Forbes magazine, you can see members of the Senate just tearing Dr. Fauci apart about, not only the injectable remedy, but also the origins, the narrative about the origins of the big virus, of the Chinese virus. And Dr. Fauci he's kind of getting pummeled like in the corner of the ring, against the ropes. I think he's halfway under the bus, and I think he's going to get thrown under the bus by the big pharmaceutical companies, and Dr. Fauci is like Dick Cheney 2.0. He's like Dick Cheney was after 9/11. He's an inside man in government who is helping huge multinational companies make serious money off of a national emergency. So I think, since government is just a smokescreen for big business, always has been, they're going to want to cover their own asses. They're going to throw Dr. Fauci under the bus. And you can see that Dr. Fauci is, when members of the Senate, like Rand Paul, for example, when they're saying, we need to go and investigate whether this virus leaked out of the Wuhan lab, which was the top level, most elite, top biosecurity lab in China. They're saying we need to investigate whether this virus leaked out of there. And when Donald Trump was president, Dr. Fauci was laughing at this whole idea of investigating this and calling it a conspiracy theory. Now in these Senate hearings, he's agreeing with it and saying we need to investigate this. So, yeah, he's about halfway under the wheels of the bus, and he's going to get run over. So watch for his head to roll eventually. And I don't think it's going to roll like some kind of criminal proceeding, but you know, at the very least, he is he's going to resign, and he's going to, you know, make the pouty media faces where they have to make the pouty faces for the cameras to make it look like they feel sorry. So, you know, watch for that. And I think this eclipse is the solar eclipse. It's going to interact with some big profile, you know, kind of executive level leaders in interesting ways. So we're talking Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris. I don't want to get into that right now because that's long and mouthy and convoluted. But if you want to hear that, stick around. You know, the eclipse is June 12th, so you probably have to hang on for about 10-15 minutes after I get done with this intro. So yeah, but yeah, we're going to learn this eclipse. We're going to learn some truth about who the true enemies of America really are. And they're not all going to be, you know, asshole-ish, kind of aggressive, you know, Republican types. There are going to be a lot of progressive types with nice smiles on their face. So just wait and see. Now, another big thing is Jupiter. So, the day of the Mercury retrograde, May 29th, Jupiter moved to 7 degrees of Aquarius. So Jupiter conjuncted the natal moon of the United States of America. So where the moon was on July 4th, 1776 at about 6:30 p.m., 7 degrees of Aquarius, Jupiter transited there. Now, Jupiter is really the most benevolent planet, protector of humanity. You know, even scientifically, Jupiter sucks in asteroids that could be a threat to the Earth. So, yeah, Jupiter is very benevolent, and it's a protector on a physical level. And in the mythology, you know, Jupiter is Thor. Thor protects humanity against the giants, you know, the devourers, the forces of nature that would, you know, wreck the human world and, you know, threaten our lives. So yeah, Jupiter's the most benevolent planet. Jupiter's also, you know, a priest, a spiritual teacher. Jupiter's a giver of gifts and blessings and luck. So again, it's conjunct with the natal moon, the birth moon of America. Now the birth moon of America, it's 7 degrees of Aquarius in the 3rd house. So Aquarius is the sign of humanity, of we the people. Also science, technology, knowledge being put to use. And then the 3rd house is the house of communications and media. And then again, the moon is the mind. So not just the intellect, but the mind, you know, the intuitive, emotional consciousness. So having Jupiter on this moon in the house of media and communications, in the sign of humanity and the people, Jupiter is going to bring us some truth. Because not only is Jupiter here, but then on the 21st, right at the sun's height, right at Midsummer's Day, summer solstice, June 21st, Jupiter is going to, at 8 degrees of Aquarius, so still being very influential and very close to America's moon, Jupiter is going to station in retrograde, go back over America's moon, and eventually back into Capricorn. So Jupiter is going to bring us, so basically Jupiter is really going to turn into Thor. You know, when Jupiter is going forward, when it's going direct, it's like a nice, soft-spoken, you know, priest, spiritual teacher. When it goes retrograde, then it's Thor. It's angry, and it's fighting for humanity. It's throwing hammers at enemies' heads. So that retrograde Jupiter, so Jupiter's going to, well, it conjuncted the America's moon. It's going to pass it just a hair. It's going to retrograde back over it. So this is going to be the beginning of the end for media as we know it. And there are other points in the past where you could say it was the beginning of the end for media as we know it. But this is going to become very apparent. And, you know, corporate mass media, conglomerate level. I'm talking the 6 companies that control over 90% of the world's media outlets. They are going to be called to account, and not called to account by the governments, because they own the governments. They fund the politicians' election campaigns. So politicians aren't going to do anything about it. But I think the people, because this is an Aquarius, the people are going to call these media companies to account. And you're going to see people just leaving social media platforms. You're going to see people tuning out these outlets even more than ever. So they're online. The websites, the news websites, are going to be losing sponsorship money because there's going to be less traffic. You're going to see social media platforms being abandoned. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. All those are going to lose more and more followership, and then more sponsorship money. Cable TV is going to be doing even worse than it already is, and it's in a pretty lousy condition. So more and more of this. And what I think too is, I think mass media is going to have its hand forced into showing some real news and some real information, because they're going to be so afraid of losing viewership and sponsorship. So I think they're going to start covering stories like, did the Chinese virus come out of the Wuhan lab? They're going to start running things like the fact that bats in labs can't even get infected with the China virus. So we're gonna see more and more of this. I think another thing that might come up, the whole UFO thing that the Pentagon has been talking to the media about, as the truth about the vaccine, the injectable, the adverse effects of the experimental injectable remedy to the big virus come out, I think government and media are going to get together and start rolling more of these UFO stories. And we can't get too distracted by it, because it's important, but it's something that government has known about for the last 75 years. And I think when they get in enough trouble, they're just going to start handing out the story piecemeal that they've had for a long time. So don't get too distracted by it, though it is interesting. And there are a lot of topics that are going to be slated to come out, like human trafficking, who makes money off of that, big well-regarded names that make money off of that, business people, politicians, who makes money off drug traffic, even things like mind control, MK Ultra, the dirty wars that go on in the world just to prop the economies up, so companies can steal resources from people around the world. A lot of stuff starting to come out, and it's gonna be ongoing. Because then after this retrograde, when Jupiter goes into Capricorn, it's gonna come back into Aquarius, take the better part of a year to go through Aquarius, and it'll pass by America's moon for a 3rd time. So, America's birth moon, the natal moon, going to get passed over by Jupiter 3 times in the space of a year. So that's a pretty big deal. And then too, having the day that Jupiter, May 29th, went to America's birth moon, you had Mercury retrograde at 0 degrees Gemini. So Gemini it's the original sign of the 3rd house. So Gemini is the sign of communications and all forms of media. So it's stationed and went retrograde at 0 degrees Gemini. 0 degrees is the miracle degree. So 0 degrees, so a sign is 30 degrees wide. So 0 degrees and 29 degrees basically have an infinite potential of energy to get things done, because 0 is like birth, 29 is like old age. So at birth, your life is pure potential. At old age, you have all this wisdom and all this information and knowledge you've accumulated. So they're the miracle degrees, and it's where the craziest things happen. So, it's very serendipitous, and, I think very fated and divinely ordained that Jupiter, the bringer of knowledge and truth and gifts and blessings, conjuncted with America's birth moon on the day that Mercury went retrograde at 0 degrees of Gemini. So that's a mouthful. And last thing with the Jupiter retrograde, when it retrogrades in the summer, not necessarily a fun summer. It's probably going to have to do with like gas prices, because this Mercury retrograde is going to go back into Taurus, and its end point. The retrograde is going to end on June 21st, the day that Jupiter retrogrades, and on June 21st, Mercury will reach 21 degrees of Taurus. That is the degree it was at on May 14th. So that was 7 days after the Colonial Pipeline ransomware hack. And if you didn't catch that in the news, the Colonial Pipeline runs from like Texas to New Jersey, and it provides the whole southeast of the United States with gasoline. So it caused panic buying and gas shortages and gas prices to go up. So it's probably something we're going to see this summer is gas and oil prices go up, and possibly some more shortages. So that could put a cramp on the summer fun. I don't see any renewed lockdowns, at least in America, for the summer. The rest of the world, yeah. And in London they're protesting it, because the UK is so crazy with lockdowns. But yeah, other countries in the northern hemisphere, particularly, Canada is like absolutely total COVIDiocy right now, insane lockdowns. So yeah, Canada, Europe, yeah. Japan's going nuts. So yeah, it's gonna hurt the summer fun. Now another big bullet point in this summary here. June 1st, Mars transits into Cancer. It's going to remain there till July 21st. So Mars is debilitated in Cancer, hates being in Cancer. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, which is the opposite sign to Cancer. So Cancer is a sign of emotions, of security, a sign of the heart, of comfort, of maternal energy, of family. Mars doesn't like being here. Mars wants to go, wants to build, it wants to kick ass, it wants to conquer, wants to go to war. It doesn't like dealing with emotions and security and being still and being comfortable. So when Mars gets here, it makes for a hot summer because it affects human emotions. Human emotions affect the natural world. A lot of people laugh at this concept, but you just look at what's going on at any given time through history, and the weather gets extreme. The first thing that comes to mind is like when Napoleon, and then when the Third Reich invaded Russia, like insanely cold winters. Both back in like 1812 to 1814, and then back in 1940, 41. Insanely cold winters in both of those countries invading Russia. Paid dearly for it, and the deaths of their soldiers, and they starved and all kinds of stuff. So when human emotions get extreme, then the weather gets extreme. So yeah, Mars doesn't like being in Cancer, and Mars helps us to express our anger. Cancer is not an angry sign. Cancer is a sign of comfort and security. So Mars, it gets angry, but it's like anger that stews and it has trouble expressing and and getting out. So it causes like a boil. Now Mars also attacks things. So this is the world, because Cancer is the original sign of the fourth house for the world. This is basically, it's going to feel like people's very security is attacked, and their families and the integrity and the structure of the family is intact. A lot of this, when it comes to family, is going to be from people just disagreeing over what's the big virus really about? Is the remedy, is the vax safe? Is it safe and effective? So yeah, a lot of disagreements about that. Disagreements. Are the lockdowns appropriate? You know, people want to get back to living, you know, normal social lives. Now, for America, Cancer is in the 8th house of mysteries, scandals, sudden ups and downs, transformations, hidden things, conspiracies. So I think this could point to kind of like anger over scandals, and I think scandals are going to be erupting. You know, because Mars makes things happen, whatever house it's in. So, yeah, for America, this is going to be like scandals, conspiracies, hidden things coming to light that were taking place, having to do with our country, within our country. So yeah, and not every, you know, when people hear the news, they're going to say, "Oh no, that's just Russian intelligence creating that story. That's a bunch of bullshit." So. But yeah, it's going to give people some things to dispute about. But yeah, definitely look for a hot summer. It's probably going to affect crops. Could cause some, you know, some certain percentages of different staple crops to die off. So that could drive food prices up later in the year. So yeah, we'll see. Could affect the hurricane season. Not sure about that yet. I'm not feeling a big hurricane season. I'm just looking at summer heat, but you know, we'll see. June 24th. Kind of a big day because we have a full moon in Sagittarius right on America's ascendant degree. So America's ascendant degree was 8 degrees 59 minutes, so pretty much 9 degrees. So this full moon in Sagittarius will take place at 9 degrees. We haven't had a full moon on America's ascendant since 2002. You know, not the biggest thing, but the thing about it is that 9 degrees was where Rahu and Ketu, that's the degree Rahu and Ketu were on 9/11. So on 9/11, Ketu was at 9 degrees of Sagittarius. So I think what this is all about is this is an indicator that as a country, as a world and as a country, we're in a very similar place as to where we were on 9/11. So we just had, and you know, we just had a terrorist attack. In my opinion, the big virus, the China virus, I think it did escape from a lab, but I think it had some help. And I think we're going to see this come out into the mainstream eventually. And I hope it comes out with more pizzazz than some crucial details about 9/11 did. But I think in both cases, the Kung Flu and the 9/11, they were terrorist attacks. Terrorist type attacks happen when Rahu and Ketu go to that galactic center axis. So Mula, the nakshatra constellation Sagittarius, Ardra, the nakshatra constellation in Gemini. So yeah, we're kind of, in a way, we're back to where we were in 2002. We just had a terrorist attack, and then the profiteers, the multinational corporations, had their inside men in government, like Dick Cheney or like Dr. Fauci, and they're making a fucking multi-billion-dollar killing. I think, what is it? Is it Pfizer's gonna make something like 30 billion just from their shot that they've sold? So yeah, we're right back to this point where these multinational corporations take advantage of these terrorist attacks, if not outright support and possibly plan them. And they make a ton of money, since they sponsor the big media companies, they manipulate the media and they tell the story the way they want it to be told, which is misleading and deceitful. So this is just kind of one of those red flags. Hey, we're back to where we were in 2002. Better get smart. You know, and another thing too is you're going to see more polarity this summer. People are banding together with other people of like minds. You know, no matter what they think, no matter where they stand on issues. This is kind of the whole thing about humanity diverging. So yeah, people are going to, they're choosing whether to embrace fear or whether to embrace courage. And I hate to polarize it after I just talked about polarization, but you can kind of make that generality. You know, we all fear is part of our consciousness, no matter who you are. But when you're fearless, you make the decision not to let your fear rule you. So, yeah. So that's sort of what people are diverging over. Let me see. So I mentioned with the economy, you know, yeah, Mercury retrograded 0 degrees Gemini, going back to where it was in Taurus. I think that could drive gas prices up, like after the Colonial Pipeline hack. Mercury is also financial markets, so I think this brings volatility to the stock markets and all that, commodity markets. They're not going to just outright crash in the near future. They're going to be up and down. People are going to lose money and make a ton of money. But I think this is the beginning of a long decline. And the other thing too is that Mars is retrograding. It is at about 19 degrees of Capricorn. It's going back towards America's natal K2, the birth K2. And K2 is at 15 degrees 51 minutes Capricorn, almost 16 degrees when America was born. K2 cuts things away. So later in, what is it? August 4th, they're going to come together. Transiting Saturn and America's, the birth K2, the natal K2. So when Saturn and when K2 get together, this basically causes, this is like, Saturn's all about karma, K2 deals with losses, with, you know, like liberation. So it's all about like losses that were fated, but it's fated because transformation has to take place. So this is a big marker for America's whole financial world, financial life to be transformed. Basically burn up and collapse and be reborn. It's going to be it's not going to happen on that day, but it's going to be the signal for it. Even in, what was it? I think it was October 7th, early October 2008 was when the stock market crash happened after the whole Bear Stearns thing. Saturn and K2 conjuncted in Leo. So, yeah. They do, you know, when Saturn and K2 come together, things kind of hiccup and crash and do all kinds of crazy things. That is the 9th house. Leo's the 9th house for America. So the 9th house is luck. It's also banking. Jupiter has a relationship with banking. So yeah. But yeah, another thing with that Saturn retrograding back towards the natal K2, this is going to be a transformation for government too, because it is Capricorn. And government for the whole world. I think governments are going to lose their offensive capability. They're not going to be able to put a lot more measures in place of, you need to wear 3 masks, you need a COVID passport, you need a da-da-da-da-da, you can't go within 6 feet of whoever. They're going to lose the capability to put down, you know, these crazy requirements, and they're going to start being very busy defending themselves. So yeah, government power is going to kind of be at an ebb. They're not going to be able to really go on the offensive. When they start getting really concerned with protecting themselves, they're not going to have a whole lot of capability to help us. So, you know, you need to have common sense and be able to look out for yourself through all this. So that's the summary. And wow, it's almost 40 minutes. Let's get into the month. So yeah, real quick. You know, one thing that really set up the month was May 29th, was when Mercury hit that retrograde, that station in retrograde at 0 degrees of Gemini, which is the 7th house for America. So that's deals with all relationships, so like friends and enemies. So yeah, I think this has to deal with basically the ability to go back and review the communications, the things being said by, by other countries, by, or even just organizations that are like other from our country. So, like the multinational companies that puppeteer, our country as of late. It's an opportunity to go back and review our agreements with other countries, with big companies, with what they've been saying, and kind of read between the lines. And then too, Mercury retrograding back into Taurus, it's going to do something, with the the fuel and all that, because it's going back to where it was when the Colonial Pipeline was hacked. On that day, on May 29th, Jupiter was conjunct with America's natal moon. Again, so that's Jupiter bringing some truth to the people and into media, cutting through, the deception and the lies and all the misleading, and kind of the corruption in that sphere. Also on that day, Moon and Pluto were conjunct at 2 degrees of Capricorn. So that's basically bringing to our minds all of the hidden, the underlying things, the sneaky things that were going on in finance and in government. And then you had, in the 6th house there, in Taurus, you had Sun and Rahu within 2 degrees of each other. So Sun's the soul, Rahu is basically like our earthly desires. Ever since then, I keep hearing from people that, they've been anxious, they've been on edge, they've been antsy. When Sun and Rahu come together, you're really conscious and focused on what you want. What you want from your life. So I think this has caused some unrest in people. And, for the world, this is in the Taurus is the 2nd house for the whole world. So it's all about what we want in our physical environment. It's about getting our livelihoods back. For America, it's about like the struggles we have to go through and even the enemies we have to go up against to get the lives we want. Yeah. So that's pretty much May 29th. Let's get into June finally. June 1st, as I mentioned, Mars in Cancer, that hot summer, that kind of bubbling anger. And then, scandals coming out, hidden things coming out, things of a conspiratorial nature coming out. And these things, threatening our security, and people getting angry about it. And then on this day, too, on June 1st, Sun and Rahu will actually conjunct in Taurus, the 6th house for America. So, it's this... It's kind of this angstiness about, what it is we want to make happen. What do we want in our lives, especially in our physical environments, and, restoring our livelihoods after the economy's been shut down for a year and a half. June 6th, D-Day. Mars will conjunct America's natal Mercury. So when America was born, Mercury was in Cancer, in the 8th house, retrograde at 3 degrees. So Mars will be at 3 degrees that day, so there'll be a perfect conjunction. So this is all about, you're going to see, because we're reviewing, we're basically reviewing things the media has said, we're reviewing communications. I think because Mars comes in with all the vitality, this is where we start to see the scandals popping up and coming out, and then the public kind of outrage from it. June 7th, Venus conjunct America's natal Venus. So this is in America's 7th house of relationships, of all other people, friends, enemies, you name it. So Venus, transiting Venus comes to 12 degrees where the natal Venus is. So this is basically all about, people want to go back to having lives, and they want to go back to socializing and having friends and getting together with people. And, you know, most places here in America this is happening. I think governments, politicians are sweating and they're giving back freedoms to people. You know, even in the most COVID-idiotic states, they're giving this back because they're afraid of the public backlash. So that's what I see out of that. And people too are looking for, you know, they're looking for people with the like minds to get together with. So we come back to that solar eclipse I talked so much about a few minutes ago. June 10th, solar eclipse in Taurus. Solar eclipse is the new moon too. So the darkening of the sun and the moon. So again, the spotlights darken and you can see things you couldn't see before. So, you know, for the world, it's Taurus. It's the original second house. It's all about wealth, the material world. It's about getting that back, but it's also learning about, you know, who really controls the world's wealth. What do they do with it? How do they do it? Could be some scandal components to that. For America, this is in the 6th house. This is health, healing, disease, medicine, enemies. So I think this is going to be information about where did the China virus, the Wuhan virus, really come from? Did it really escape from a lab? Was it made in a lab? Did National Institutes of Health, under Dr. Fauci's leadership, give the Wuhan lab money for gain-of-function research? Gain-of-function is when scientists in a lab take a pathogen, a virus or a bacteria, an infectious one, and they make it even more infectious by engineering its genetics in order to study it. And Dr. Fauci says this didn't happen, but then when the senators ask, well, how do you know this? He says, well, the strings attached to our money, the conditions of getting the money is that you can't do that research. And the senators have been asking, well, you think they could have lied to you? And he's like, well, not to my knowledge. So there's a story that's going to come out there. And the other thing too is on this day Venus will conjunct America's natal Jupiter. So natal Jupiter is in 7th house, Gemini, at 15 degrees. So this is all about, you know, again, people want to reconnect with people and socialize and expand that whole sphere of their lives and make friends. Now another part of the solar eclipse I wanted to talk about is how it affects some national level leaders, current and former. Okay, so first we're looking at Joe Biden. I think he has some sort of a health event on deck, you know, some sort of a setback in his health, because he's a Scorpio ascendant. The full moon in Scorpio took place very close to his ascendant degree. It was let me see. Yeah, so the full moon in Scorpio was at 11 degrees of Scorpio on May 26th. His ascendant degree is 22 degrees, so it's 11 degrees away, but, you know, still in the neighborhood. However, his sun is 7 degrees away, so really a conjunction, it's about a 10-degree radius on either side. So, yeah, I think that lunar eclipse put something into motion with his health, because it's only 7 degrees from his sun, which is right in his ascendant house. Now the other thing too is this solar eclipse, June 10th, is taking place right in Mr. Joe's 7th house, so the house of relationships, friends, enemies, and, you know, all others. Solar eclipse takes place at 25 degrees Taurus. He has, this is right near his natal Saturn, which is in retrograde, 16 degrees. So I I think something is going to come to light about, and this is like a karmic fated thing because Saturn is very close. I think something could come to light about friends of his people he's friends with that he doesn't want the world to know he's friends with. This could also have to do with things that his enemies are doing against him. So his enemies could deal some sort of a blow to him, I think, which would be in the form of information. And then the other thing too is I think some of his friends could turn into enemies. I think he's another person who is on his way towards the wheels of the bus. Because even in the mainstream, even people who, even in the media, people who are Democrats are talking about his cognitive decline and, his cognitive abilities. So I think that's something that's coming up here. Then if we look at Donald Trump was, he was born on the day of a lunar eclipse. So in Taurus, which is his 10th house of career, he has his sun and his Rahu at 29 and 27 degrees of Taurus. So sun and moon with the solar eclipse at 25 degrees is right in the mix there, and he's got his Uranus at 24 degrees. So I think this is going to do something for his whole career life. I think it's going to, it could, I think it's going to lend some sort of visibility to him. I don't want to say power, but it's going to lend him some sort of visibility. And that'll be interesting. And especially too with Mercury headed back towards that Taurus. I think, and then also and this stands for Joe Biden too, with the both of them. With Mercury headed back towards that Taurus, I think the world is going to take a second look at what Taurus means to these people. So for Donald Trump, it's about taking like a second look at some of the things he's said in his career as president. Especially the whole Wuhan lab theory could come back out that he was saying it all along. And the news could just be saying this. So that'll be interesting. For Mars, where it is for Trump is in his 12th house. At the time it'll be at 5 degrees Cancer. That's pretty close to his Venus, which is 2 degrees, and the Saturn, which is fate. So, you could see a woman around him being in some kind of danger. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see with that. But yeah, going back to Biden though, that's where Mars is. That's in his 9th house. And it's near his natal Jupiter, which is at 2 degrees. So this can kind of deal a blow to Biden's luck. So that'll be interesting to watch here. So many possibilities here. And then the other one too I was looking at when you come to Kamala Harris. She is Gemini ascendant. She has Taurus, where the eclipse is taking place, in her 12th house. 12th house is all things behind the scene, things that go on behind the scenes, the hidden parts of people's lives, their losses. So her natal Jupiter is in Taurus. It's at 0 degrees, so it's the very beginning of the sign. And then the eclipse is at 25 degrees, so it's far away, but it's the same house. You could see something coming to light about things from her private life or things from her professional life she didn't really want people to see. Things she would rather keep, hidden. So that could be interesting to watch. That Mars for her, that's in her second house of wealth. Her natal Mars is 27 degrees, so far apart on that day. I don't really see a big effect from that. Let me see. But one thing she does have is her 8th house is Capricorn, where Saturn and Pluto are. So yeah, I don't know. With that Saturn retrograde, it could have to do something with, could be something scandal related. Hard to say. But with the media as friendly as they are to her, chances are very slim. Yeah, nothing really going on in any of the houses that are activated for any of these people. Biden has his 6th house active, because different houses activated every year. Trump's 3rd house and Harris's 12th. The only thing I can really see is for Kamala Harris. Her 12th house is active. Her 10th house is active, with the sign Pisces. 10th house is the career house. She has no planets in there, and there's no, on the day of the eclipse, there's no action in Pisces. But to see what a sign is doing, you have to look at a planet. So Jupiter, again, is stationing basically right on the degree of America's natal moon. And the same day that that Mercury went into retrograde, and it's all about bringing truth out about media, to the people. So she could get tied up in that somehow. But yeah, I don't see a huge chance of that. So that's pretty much out of the eclipse. Let's keep this moving. This is a long one. June 15th, Sun will be in Gemini. And actually the Sun enters Gemini this day. It'll be 0 degrees of Gemini. So the Sun will conjunct America's natal Mars. So that's 0 degrees of Gemini. And on the same day, transiting Venus conjuncts America's natal Sun, which is 22 degrees of Gemini. So you get this interesting yin and yang here, where, again, transiting Sun conjuncts America's natal Mars, transiting Venus conjuncts the natal Sun. So you get 2 points of Sun, 1 point of Mars, 1 point of Venus. So there's kind of like a Tai Chi symbol kind of a thing going on. What people call the yin and yang symbol. It's like a complementary kind of a thing. Yeah, in this month, a lot of conjunctions on the degrees of, America's natal planets in the 7th house. So for this, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing America's friends and America's enemies with the transiting Sun conjuncting the natal Mars. I'm seeing America's friends and enemies, like its true friends and true enemies, gaining like kind of courage and valor, because when you get Mars and Sun together, it's all about like courage and valor. So people are gonna like feel bolder about their own agendas or the agendas that they're supporting. And then with transiting Venus conjunct America's natal Sun, I see this as people wanting to basically kind of get back to the spirit of America, which is, freedom, live and let live. You can do whatever you want, say whatever you want, as long as you don't hurt other people. And Sun is what is your soul. Your soul desires. Venus is pleasure. It's creativity. It's sensuality. So yeah, that's the way I see that. Then we jump to June 21st. Midsummer's Day. Summer solstice. This is the day where Jupiter stations 8 degrees of Aquarius, just 1 degree off of America's natal moon, and starts its retrograde. So this is another big day for getting the whole ball rolling with, exposing like media corruption, media bias, bringing some more honesty and truth into media, and giving us, kind of the real deal on some stories that have been, basically getting stonewalled for a very long time. Now, on this day where Jupiter stations to go retrograde, you also have Neptune is at 29 degrees of Aquarius. And it is also getting ready to station and go retrograde. So Neptune is at the miracle degree in Aquarius. So Neptune is both a deceiver and a revealer. It just sort of depends, like, where your consciousness is at and at what level and what way you're ready to look at information. So yeah, this is a big indicator that some really big stories and some big information, some big revelations can come out. So again, about the whole virus narrative, this whole UFO thing is looming, and many other things. I could go on and on about all the hidden things that media won't report. June 22nd, Mercury stations at 21 degrees Taurus, so it ends its retrograde. Again, this is where Mercury was on May 14th when the whole gas shortage, all the panic buying was going on, prices were going up. I think we could see another one of these. It's very possible. Yeah, I think another thing too is, we'll have another several weeks of volatility in the stock market, because basically it's going to take till July 7th for Mercury to come out of shadow. So, it's a good, 2 weeks? So, yeah, 2 weeks to come out of shadow. The other thing, too, with on this day, Venus transits to Cancer. So Venus is at 0 degrees of Cancer. And this is, for America, this is the 8th house of transformation, scandals, secrets, lies, conspiracies. So, Venus could be bringing some more truth for us, more scandals to come out, some more, things that were hidden to come out of the dark. So, see what happens with that. Full moon in Sagittarius on June 24th. Mentioned that already. This is right on America's ascendant degree. So 9 degrees of Sagittarius, right in the constellation of Mula. And again, Mula and Ardra. Ardra's in Gemini, Mula's in Sagittarius. This is galactic center. So this is like where the highest vibrational energy in the galaxy comes. And this is why, when Rahu and Ketu line up with this is where the crazy events like 9/11, China virus, AIDS, the outbreak, the AIDS becoming public knowledge, Tonkin Gulf incident, JFK assassination, the atomic bombs on Japan. That's when all these crazy things happen, because that's when the karmic axis lines up with them. So they're fated, and they're all about getting us to basically to grow and to see things differently. So yeah, first full moon in Sagittarius on America's ascendant degree we've had since 2002. So it's like we're back to where we were in 2002, where a terrorist attack has happened, We're being manipulated with it. And the puppeteers, the multinational corporations that puppeteer the governments, are making huge money. And they're misleading us with the media, who they sponsor, who's their puppet. And, they're basically playing with our lives. Hopefully people will see this. Hopefully more people will see this. On that day, you have Venus conjunct America's natal Mercury, which is 3 degrees of Cancer in the 8th house. So I think this lends even some more fuel to maybe some scandals and some secret things coming to light. June 25th, this is the day that Neptune at 29 degrees, the miracle degree, one of the miracle degrees, Neptune 29 degrees of Aquarius, stations and goes retrograde. So this, again, Aquarius, 3rd house of media for America. And you get that retrograde Jupiter right over America's natal moon at 7 degrees. So again, big energy for revelations, for disclosures, all that kind of stuff. June 27th, we've got Mars conjunct the USA's natal Rahu, which is just shy of 16 degrees of Cancer. Mars and Rahu, this is basically like aggressive things that were done in a sneaky way, in a deceitful way. And again, this is for America. This is in the 8th house of scandals, conspiracies, sudden ups and downs, transformations. So, yeah, I think this could be a pretty good scandal day. Sun will be conjunct. Sun will be at 12 degrees Gemini. Will be conjunct America's natal Venus. So I think this is all about, again, people want to get back to their social lives and connecting with other people. So, yeah, a lot of public frustration and anger building because they want their lives back. So I think really through this month, the people are becoming a force to be reckoned with that government is afraid of, and they're walking backward and they're giving more freedoms back. Part of this is because they have computers like the Jade Helm, the Google computer, that it's hooked up to the internet. It's reading our text messages and our emails and our blogs and all of our social media comments, and it's seeing how angry people are because they want their lives back and they don't want to wear masks for the next 5 years to be just like China. So they're seeing people get pretty pissed. And they're afraid. And they need to stay afraid because they'll just come back and start, grabbing freedom again if they're not. That's a healthy thing. Government and politicians work for people. The president is the national butler. He's the head of the help for the whole country. We don't work for him or her or whoever the hell that is. They work for us. Same, governors, Congress people, mayors, they work for the people. We don't work for them. And then to end the month, June 30th, Sun conjunct USA's natal Jupiter. So 15 degrees Gemini. So again, I think there's two sides to Sun and Jupiter. This can be basically Jupiter, the giver of gifts, gives the Sun your soul. It helps it achieve its desires and what it wants out of life. So that's one side to it. The other side too, with Sun and Jupiter conjunct, Sun is also the ego. We all need an ego to live in this world. So, because it's our persona and our personality. So, I think the other side of the coin is that when you get Sun and Jupiter together, it can be just ego gets overblown and like overly expanded, and people get arrogant and do crazy things and kind of like reach too far. So, you know, this could be America's friends or America's enemies. You know, they get too arrogant and they show their hand, and they show a little too much and they kind of get exposed. So, hard to say. Where are we? Well, it's not bad. An hour and 10 minutes. I've run a lot longer in the past. Thanks for tuning in today. Again, please consider, you know, liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting. Helps the channel a lot. And it helps your viewing pleasure. And if you haven't had a Vedic astrology reading with me yet, I highly recommend it. The astrology, it's a great self-empowerment tool. It's a roadmap through life, through the current events. Helps you see your natural talents, opportunities, potential pitfalls. Helps you to know and understand things about yourself that, you know, you had gut feelings about but didn't have full confidence in. So it helps reinforce what you know about yourself so you can be more empowered. I do rune readings. It's a nice snapshot of what's going on in your mind. It shows you where things are open, where they're blocked, and how to rebalance and how to open things up. And with both of these readings, with the Vedic astrology, with the runes, I custom build you a meditation to help you balance things and help you to basically give a system update to the operating system of your mind and tell your unconscious mind, which is your manifester, what you want more of in your life. I also have a couple downloads for sale, some video downloads, some Qigong videos. Qigong is a great mind-body practice to help you get healthier, boost your immune system, circulate your blood, your energy, just boost your overall health in general, and to help you to work through self-sabotage, through things that are keeping you from living out, you know, your dreams and your desires in your life. So again, thanks for tuning in, and you'll be hearing more from me. Have a good one.